Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and for anyone who's followed me for any length of time, you probably realized that I got back into collecting in the modern age because of the Fall of Cybertron Voyager class Soundwave. And he was, and still is, a pretty fantastic figure, but when I first saw him, I thought to myself, wow, he looks like what I remember as a little kid. Now, granted, I was remembering things a little bit more inaccurately than I should have, but fast forward a few years later and we get this guy. It is the Siege Wave 2 Voyager class Soundwave, and is it time for an upgrade? Well, we're about to find out because we're going to look at him and a few custom paint apps in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and of course, subscribe. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors, NL, and have a look for me everywhere across social media. And this is the new Soundwave. Now, first things first. I had no intention of getting this guy. I was happy, man, with my Fall of Cybertron iteration. I had no problem with him because, you know what, he has a cool alt mode, and he can do kind of a version of the lamppost thing, and he can do some kind of very rough version of the whole Boombox stereo thing, and I was cool with it, even though it was all highly stylized and kind of pointy and spiky because it's very Cybertronian. And when I saw this guy, I was like, yeah, it's cool, but I don't think it's for me. Well, the more I saw of this guy and the more I handled him, the more impressed I got. It's not to say he was perfect, though, because there are things I wanted to change. Most notably, his chest. I wanted to try and rectify that severely battle damaged look that it had. I guess I was successful in some ways, and I wasn't quite as successful as I'd hoped to be in other ways. I'll explain what I mean when we head over to the table and take a closer look at this guy. And here, of course, we have Soundwave, along with his custom paintwork on his chest. But we're going to start out, as we always do, and look at this box first. And as you might well have expected, it is a box. And over here we have some beautiful artwork of Soundwave, like enough that I wish the figure was like this. We just have some cell shading really on his chest there, and it's mostly black. We don't see a bunch of battle damage on it. I would prefer that. By the way, if you have a black light, kind of down right here in this section of his leg, we have the secret lamppost mode. On the back, we have the product images that we always get. By the way, if you don't have a black light, the bottom flap of the box has this image of his lamppost mode, or you can do like me and do sort of a fan version of it. And as I've stated a few times, I'm digging these instructions. Now, for the Voyagers, the images are a little bit smaller, but they're still pretty clear. Over here we have a mega blaster thing. It's taking his accessories and putting them together into one huge blaster. I don't think I'll ever do it personally. We have the stats for his accessories. The top two, one is his shoulder mounted concussion thing. The other is his blaster. The thing on his shoulder, I think the top one's the thing on his shoulder, seems to be pretty strong. Its range is a little lacking. The next one, which I think is his regular blaster, has a good range, and it's still pretty strong. Its accuracy is a little lower. And the bottom one is that weird kind of gray piece that's another blaster that we've never really seen, but it's pretty accurate. And here we have his shoulder mounted thing. It has the gray peg. I love the red detailing on it. We also have this beautifully molded detail in the front and just this peg on the back. It might be able to take a blast effect, maybe. The one that pretty much looks like his shoulder thing is this one with the blue handle, and you can extend this piece and it's just his regular blaster. But hey, he has his regular blaster and I dig that. And then we have this thing. It's that new blaster, but I don't think that's the primary intention for it because you can see that there's a hinge there for this to open out, so you can do this with it. They can make this thing the SWHF Sonic Compression Mega Blaster. Don't ever do this. And indeed, now we come to Soundwave with his shoulder thingy on his shoulder, a blaster in this hand and one in the other hand. I mean, you could have him hold that long thing if you want. I don't dig that. I feel like the only point of this gray piece over here is to do that with it. Now, what if you don't want him in his hands? Well, as you would well expect with these guys, you could put him over here on the arm, you could put it up here on the shoulder, or you could come over here and use these ones on the back. And voila! Now he still has them on him, but they're not obstructing his hands. Granted, they do give him a bit of a heck of a backpack, though. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could also put them down here on his lower leg. That's up to you. You'll notice at this point that he has a closed like fist hand over here, and over on the other side he has a finger pointing out. Why would that possibly be? Well, because he can take that hand and bend his arm up, and he has a button up right here, and he can use that finger to press down on the button, and what do you know? We have Laserbeak inside. Amazing! He can only store one at a time. We're going to close that back up, and I'm going to show you Laserbeak on his arm. And voila! What we did is leave the legs of Laserbeak folded up and the peg that comes out so you can use them as a shield. We took that out and it went in the forearm peg hole of Soundwave. I showed this with Megatron back when I looked at Laserbeak and Ravage not that long ago, but there he is on Soundwave's arm. So he was in the chest, he's on the arm, and if you really want, you could take Laserbeak off and you can flip Laserbeak all back, and you can like put him on the shoulder like that as a shield, I guess. I guess that's what we'll call it. So what about that Soundwave coloration? Well, it's highly reminiscent of the G1 toy. In terms of its relationship to the animation, the very lower legs where we have battle damage down by the ankles, it's over black paint. To remove the battle damage, you'd end up stripping off the black paint. However, that might be okay if that doesn't bother you. Honestly, while you can use 91% rubbing alcohol to remove that battle damage, it's a lot of work down on those ankles because there's a lot of like kind of curved surfaces and whatnot. And if you strip off the black, either I think you're going to want to paint the black on, or you're going to probably want to paint it silver and make it a little more animation accurate. That said, you're also risking kind of stripping some of this metallic orange, yellow, and some of the metallic pink and yellow that's kind of in this little section here. Now, that'd be fine. You could do all of that over in silver and it's fine. You could even do this yellow section down here over in just like a normal yellow or kind of a school bussy orange color, and it'd be fine. It would look animation accurate, but I feel like the metallic paint that's used there is so nice, and I feel like the battle damage look down by the ankles is so minimal that it doesn't even bother me. And trust me, this battle damage has been bothering me, so if it doesn't bother me, it's probably not going to bother anyone. What did bother me, however, was the battle damage on his chest. So, I tried to figure out, well, how can I kind of go at that without, I guess, risking losing some of the paint or some of the gold paint or the Decepticon logo. And I did a couple things. First, there are 4 little lines on each side of his chest. I painted the middle 2 lines gold on each side because he has, in the animation, the little gold starts kind of coming out of the side of his chest. If you look at a picture of the animation, you'll see what I mean. When it comes to the chest itself, The very first thing I did was open it up, and I said what I'll do is paint it from the inside. Maybe that will mask the damaged look on the outside. But I wanted to make sure the paint would adhere. So I actually took some sandpaper and scraped up the inside. I don't think I scraped it up enough because it just ended up looking kind of scratched. My thought was it will probably help the paint to adhere better on a little bit of a roughed up surface. I put the paint on so thin that I think I could have left the surface without scratching it up and it would have been fine. What I did is I mixed a metallic blue with like a sky blue, more metallic blue and a touch of sky blue, and did many very thin coats using a damp brush. It did eventually cover, and I like the look of this because if you look at the G1 animation, it's sort of a bright blue, all-sparky type of blue that makes up his chest, and that's what this is. So I prefer it over black. But I felt like I could still see the shadow of the battle damage on the paint inside. It was a weird look, and I said, no, it still doesn't look right. So I actually took a cotton swab and I put the 91% rubbing alcohol on it, and I sort of lightly patted it off so that the rubbing alcohol wasn't dripping off of it, and I started scrubbing specifically on the battle damage. The reason that I patted off the cotton swab was to make sure I didn't have any excess rubbing alcohol that would kind of drizzle onto the gold or the Decepticon logo. And guess what? It took off the battle damage no problem and left the Decepticon logo and the gold intact just fine. And it didn't take much work, a few minutes. I wish I had risked doing that very first thing. If I had succeeded in doing that, I probably would have still painted the inside, but I don't think I would have been as motivated to rough the inside up, and I think I would have a slightly smoother look than even what I have here. And what I have here I think is an alright job on the chest. Could be done better. And of course, if you want your Soundwave to have more of a tinted or like a black type of look on his chest, use black. Then we get to the eyes. And the eyes by rights should be red, but they're yellow here like the toy. And normally I would paint that over, but I didn't here. I can't in good conscience do that because the light piping here is beyond glorious. Even right here you can see just how glorious those eyes look and how bright they are. If we actually put a light over it, it probably shows it up even more. I think that it's so well done that it would be a travesty, an absolute travesty to cover it up with paint. As for all of our other typical Soundwavy colors, the gray is a perfect gray for it, the blue is a perfect blue for it. Here's the thing, I'm going to say that in terms of animation accuracy, this guy is really close. He's a good 8. But the things that make him toy accurate are executed so fantastic that overall, I think that this Soundwave is definitely going to be a 9, maybe even a 9.25. I can't give it a 10 for toy accuracy because it's not exactly toy accurate. I can't give it a 10 for animation accuracy because it is, admittedly, taking cues from the toy. But since it is very quintessentially Soundwave, I'm going to say 9.25. That's objectively speaking. Subjectively, I want to say it's 10. I want to say he's a fantastic Soundwave, but 9.25. What about that articulation? Impressive. Impressive. The articulation has a head that goes left and right and a little up and a little down, more of a wiggle. The arm can go all the way around, way out to the side. We have a bicep swivel. We do not have a wrist, unfortunately. We do have a hollow forearm, unfortunately. We do, however, have kind of blasters on his arms. They can come out, so that's sort of cool, I guess. We have a waist. We have hip skirt pieces, and they're 2 different hip skirt pieces so that the leg can go all the way forward and it can go all the way back, and the guy can do the splits fantastically. He has a dedicated thigh swivel. He has a knee to easy 90 degrees. He has ankle tilt. It has pretty much everything that you would want Soundwave to have. And I say pretty much because a wrist would be nice. But that's about it. I'm going to say, and I guess we do have, because of transformation, you can bend the wrist in, you just can't rotate it. I'm going to say that the articulation, because the only thing it's missing is a wrist, I'm going to say it's easy, again, 9.25. So far the guy's a 9.25, and I think he is great for it. Now, I will note this before we get into the transformation. Here he is alongside his FOC counterpart. And yes, indeed, he is quite a bit smaller, as you see here. That being said, I always felt like that the FOC Soundwave was always slightly bigger than I wanted him to be. I didn't want him to be as small as a Deluxe, but I always felt like this Soundwave, in comparison to, say, my Megatron, which I use Hegemon for, but I always felt like this Soundwave is a little bit bigger than I think I'd like him to be. Now, maybe it's accurate. Maybe he's supposed to be that big. I don't know, but I'm kind of okay with Soundwave being slightly smaller. That being said, let's not forget that because this is a Voyager, we have to ask ourselves, is this Soundwave guilty or innocent of the recent price increase? Around here, a Voyager was $29.99 as late as Power of the Primes, went up $10 to $39.99 in Siege. Is it worth a $10 increase? I'll say this even. If we compare these two, when I got the FOC Soundwave, I got him in 2012 for $24.99. So over the course of what, 6.5 years or so, we've had it go up a good $15. I don't know, man. I don't know. As always, we should note that the numbers do not lie. This guy clocks in at 184 grams. And the reason I have Laserbeak here is because he came with Laserbeak. So 184 grams for the Fall of Cybertron version. Our C generation clocks in at 138 grams. So he's significantly smaller, and he lacks the wrist articulation that the FOC one has, but he does have maybe slightly better head articulation, and his styling is definitely more G1 accurate, and the molded in detail is in fact more detailed on the Siege figure, so it's a bit of a toss-up. Nevertheless, plastic amount to plastic amount, the FOC one is significantly heavier and has more to him. That being said, let's not forget that thus far we're 2 waves in to the Siege line, and for me personally, I have yet to come upon a remold other than the Rescue Patrol, and I didn't have to question if they were justified at their price point, because they're the same price as what a Legends figure was, and that price didn't go up. I can see now we're getting 2 figures for 1. That's another story. Here, I can say that 2 waves in, and so far all I've experienced are new molds. That does say something, and that does, to me, help in justifying the cost, because more goes into development. What about the transformation for this guy? Well, we're sitting pretty at a 9.25, and this guy actually has a few transformations. I'm going to go through what I can to sort of, I guess, show you what I can. We'll go to his, I don't know, let's say his light post mode first, and then we'll go to maybe the ship, and finally a couple of variations on the like Boombox mode. So we begin by taking off all of the accessories. It's just, you could leave them on, I guess, but I think it's just easier if we take them off. By rights, you're supposed to kind of straighten up his legs and open out his back here and put his head in and close his back up, and now take these pieces up over thusly, and he sort of hinges forward a little bit, and then these arms come back, his wrists go in, we flip this up, arm up, hand in, wrist in, and flip this up, and that's kind of what we're supposed to have for his light post mode. Now what I got done here probably isn't exactly right, and I wish I could say I care, but I don't, because this is not what I do for it. So what exactly do I do for the lamppost mode? Well, here's what I do. I stand him up, I rotate the waist around, I turn the leg, and I turn the leg, and I flip that up. I bring the leg forward and open that piece out and put the toe up and bring that down. It's as if we're going to his ship mode, because this is what you do with the legs for his ship mode. You open up the back of the calves and you close them up with the feet inside. You tab the legs together and you bring these pieces up over. When you bring them up over, we actually have circular pegs right there on the thighs that these will tab onto. Then we, oh, my mistake, open these out to the side, bring them up like this, and there you go, bend at the elbow, put that in. I personally bring this back down on his back, fold these down, bend that forward, and for me, I think this is the light post mode. Of course, it's up to you. This works for me. Of course, it's a fan mode, but I like it. So what about going to that ship that everybody's talking about? Well, from here, it should be actually pretty easy to accomplish. We're halfway there with the legs done. All we have to do now is come here and we can, again, lift this back piece off, and it's on a gray hinge, and bring it up over. When we bring it up over, there's a little rectangular tab there. It goes into a slot right here in the neck. And it does tab in. Then we take the whole waist section here and we bend it back. And if you didn't do it already, oh, take these down a little bit. Turn this around again. And we can take the arms off. They're pegged in. So unpeg the arms and bring them all the way down. Straighten the arms out underneath the body. And then bring the arms forward, and we turn them toward each other, and we pick up his little blaster, turn them toward each other, pick up the little blaster. We peg the arms together. If they want to peg together, they don't always like to peg together. And we straighten that up like this. And then these, I don't know, take them off to the side like this maybe if you want. And boom, in the end, here you have his weird ship mode. I don't know, do you think that's good? I mean, I don't really think it's good. I don't know. What about his accessories here? Well, we have these couple of ports up here, and we could put that one. Now, I've heard the criticism made, like there's not many ports in the vehicle mode, and I guess there's not if you want to put a lot on him. But that being said, you could always flip these down to give you two more, and you do have those two, and I guess that's about it. If you put his hands out underneath, you can also slot this piece in. But here's the thing, even with the couple that are there, if you put the right pieces in from, say, Cog or Six Gun or whoever, you can keep kind of building on, just like building blocks, man, just like building blocks. So I mentioned that we would end with a couple of versions of his boombox, and there are a couple of versions you can do. One, perhaps easier to do. The other is a little bit more of a long shot. I'll show you the easier one from here. So what we have is, back here we have his whole, I don't know what you call it, like back section. By the way, if you open this now, like, you can press the button, like nothing keeps that from going all the way down, but we've seen that before. You can flip this out, and you can flip this out on his shoulder, and now you can untab and untab the flaps that were on his legs, and you can bring the legs out to the side and then rotate them and bring that up on the side. Bring this one out, rotate it up, and bring it out to the side. And then what I've seen is these put like that, and boom! There you have one possible boombox mode. I guess the idea is that this and this are speakers. Maybe these are subwoofers, I don't know. It's definitely more stylized, but it's an option. The other one looks like this. The other version is definitely closer to his G1 mode, and it's this, with here and here serving as his speakers, I suppose. We have his button configuration down here, but there's a problem with this version, and that's this. It's leaned back. Unless you pop the arms off, then you can get it straight. Or there is an add-on set that does help with this mode. We'll talk about that a little bit later. So stock, yes, he can do all the modes, even though his kind of, we'll say, stock boombox mode is a little more stylized. This is definitely more traditional of a boombox mode, but it's either going to mean popping off his arms or having to get a little something extra to kind of make sure that the shoulders get out of the way. So in terms of conversion, honestly, there's so much you can do with the guy. I mean, yes, officially he has a ship as his alternate mode, but he can do the lamppost. He can do a couple of variations of the lamppost. He can do the boombox. He can do a couple of variations of the boombox. And I'm sure there's even more variations than what I've shown here, because the guy can move all over the place. I have to say his conversion is easy any way you do it, but there's so many moving parts that it's interesting. His conversion is a 10. The guy's easy. 9.75. Fill in the arms, give him wrists, and I don't know if there's any other flaws that I can really pick out about the dude. Granted, I did have to fix up his chest for my taste. That's just for my taste. He's a solid win. If you are happy with an earlier version, like the FOC version, I don't think you need to upgrade. But if you've been on the fence and you're thinking, should I go in for this guy? Then I have to say I think you should. Is he guilty or innocent? In terms of plastic quantity, no, he's guilty. But in terms of, I think, the care and detail of the mold, in terms of the fact that we've, across the line, had more development thus far, and most importantly, in terms of the fact that he just makes me happy to have on the shelf, I have to say that he is innocent. And here we are once again, and wow, this guy is pretty fantastic. It's not to say that he's perfect. I mean, you could complain about the hollow forearms. You could say, you know, his alt mode is, like his official alt mode, that ship thing is nothing. It's not good. He pulls off the lamp post mode excellent, whether you use the, you know, official version or something like my slightly stylized version. And he can kind of pull off the boombox mode. Now, that being said, when it comes to the boombox mode and it comes to his forearms, to rectify those flaws, we do in fact have an upgrade kit, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But just stock, just as he is, he's a fantastic Soundwave. If you are happy with the Fall of Cybertron one, do you really need to upgrade? I don't think so. But if you want something a little more G1 accurate, this might be the way to go. Now, that being said, this is definitely more toy accurate than animation. And the work that I did on the chest does help with his animation accuracy. I mean, there is like an Allspark type of blue that's used inside. I have that kind of mimicked here with that mix of sky blue and metallic blue. I do have the little gold put over on the sides, and granted his eyes should be red, and I could certainly paint them. I could even paint them a metallic red and it would probably look nice. But this is a case where the yellow is bright anyway, and when it catches the light correctly for the light piping, it is almost artistic light piping. It is beautiful and shining and gleaming and perfect. Now, about the only, I guess, level of quality for light piping that I could compare this Soundwaves to would be to the Generations Springer that we had a few years ago. The light piping on him is impeccable. Same thing here. The accessories make sense. The guy is able to even take variations on his various alt modes. Like you can do variations on the lamppost mode. You can do a couple of variations on the boombox mode. There's a lot here to like. Yes, he's a little shorter. Yes, he's a little smaller, but I think that his scaling actually works quite well with a lot of my figures, at least for my taste. And for that reason, I actually have to say that I think this guy, especially since he's a new mold with a lot of molded in detail, I'm actually going to give this guy a pass and say that his price is in fact justified and that this guy is in fact innocent. Anyway, let me know what you think about Soundwave. Do you like him? Do you not like him? Did you feel a need to upgrade, or do you just have several Soundwaves in your collection? Yeah, he's good. He's good. Again, I'm going to say please hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so very much. Thank you very much for your valuable time, and I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.